the chapter house, the oldest standing building on the Wirral, founded in 1150 by a Hammond de Massey. I'll tell you something, this place is alive with strong energies. I've had many experiences here, and I'd like to share a few of them with you. The largest number of monks here in one year was 16, but there were many years when there were only 5 monks, and they would have had their work cut out. They were Catholic monks of the order of Saint Benedict. Known as black monks for the colour of their robes. There's a monk here who paces up and down, moving around with his hands in his sleeves. I'm very wary of him because he's as aware of my presence here as I am of his. Like, he can see me just like I can see him. He's from around 1500, clean shaven, with a sort of thinning bowl head hairstyle, middle aged, and something keeps him here. Some sort of oath or unkept promise. And I've never been able to bring them in to direct communication. In 1346, a black monk of Birkenhead named Thomas de Whalley was found guilty of beating and wounding a man named Richard Jollybird in Morton, and he was forced to pay a fine of 5 shillings for his crimes. Another funny story about the monks dates from 1348. That year, the prior had to reinforce the rules of silence, which were frequently broken by monks in the church, the cloister, the dormitory and the refectory. One time I was walking this path to the cemetery and something caught my eye. Across the field to the right, I saw a tall shadowy figure near the wall, and it disappeared into thin air. It wasn't a trick of the torchlight because I caught it in the light for a second, like a shooting star. It was there for a second, then simply vanished. There's a weathered gravestone in the area where I seen it, but what I saw was a lot taller than that. There's also a dog's energy here. I've sensed it all over the place, and it's not a nice energy. Like a wolfhound, almost savage, like it would attack if it could. It's been set on people when it was alive, and its owner wasn't a nice person. I don't know why it's here, or what connection it has to the place. Imagine my surprise when I went home after encountering the dog and did some research. I discovered that in 1348, a prior, Henry de Beckerton, claimed the right to keep greyhounds and other dogs on Priory ground. It said that the prior died soon thereafter from the Black Death. the priors here was a murderer, a man named Richard Norman. He stabbed an Augustinian friar to death in London and then fled to Rome, where he received absolution from the Pope. And then he moved to Birkenhead, where he became prior in 1440. The first experience I ever had here was in this cemetery. I was stood at one end and I clearly heard footsteps coming from the other end. I blamed it on leaves or nocturnal critters, but when I went to investigate, the footsteps stopped and then carried on behind me from the end I'd just been stood at. It was a man's footsteps, ringing like heeled boots on stone, pacing a few steps, stopping and shuffling and then carrying on. It was a surreal experience because there was no visible cause, and the footsteps stopped abruptly and I never heard them again. The majority of graves here are from the 1800s. The oldest memorial is on display in the chapter house, an inscribed stone in memory of Prior Thomas Rainford, who died in 1473. And there are many medieval gravestones preserved in the buildings here. I was walking past this entrance then, and it's horrible. Like there was something through there. The land around the chapter house today is elevated, creating an odd level change with this weird enclosed area around the building. In the darkness, the energy sits heavy with an edgy vibe. I can't say it's bad, but it does make me nervous. It's mad because the energy is literally permeating through the foundations of the oldest building on the Wirral. During Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries in the 1530s, the Priory was shut down with little resistance. It's said that at the time, Birkenhead Priory was one of the poorest priories in the country. The place was then privately owned and left to ruin for hundreds of years. In this old ruin, there are several energies. At the alms window, I was presented with the vision of it in use. I saw a monk stood at the window, handing things out to an orderly queue of people. Flour, fleeces of wool, seeds, tools. I seen a woman with a child in the time when the population of the Wirral was in the hundreds. The ground floor contained a hall where travellers could rest, as well as a monk's parlour. And there's an energy in here. It's never revealed itself, but it moves around and it likes to make noise, bangs and knocks, shuffling. I like to stand inside this bit of wall because you can't see into the hall, but you hear some crazy things. The floor above was the Prior's lodgings, and there's an entity up there. He's over there, and it's the same feeling, like he's aware of my presence. He's always up there, and it's creepy because he's always facing away towards the wall. I don't sense any badness, but he's very unnerving. One notable tidbit tells of the Priory being fortified and occupied during the English Civil War of the 1660s. It was held by the Royalists, who then lost it to the Roundheads, and it's said that the Priory sustained substantial damage during the fighting. A couple of weeks ago, I came to the Priory at night after work. I wanted to come and say hello to the face in the wall, and I did. I tapped him on the cheek and said, "Hello lad," and when I did, the face came to life. It was no longer stone. I could see the pores of the skin, hairs bristling, nostrils flaring, and the eyes opened. He didn't look at me. He stared forward blankly and blinked a couple of times. I tried to draw him in, but the only way he'd communicate is by speaking through me, and I refused, because channeling entities through the body isn't for me. I find it too unpleasant, and I ain't up for getting possessed. I stepped away, and he closed his eyes. That's all I've got for you for now. Scared myself enough for one night, and I've got to get up for work in a couple of hours. See you later.